Governor Ducey took a tour of Arizona's Health Emergency Operations Center today earlier before meeting with the media for the first time in a couple of weeks to take questions about the state's pandemic response. Team 12's Mitch Carr was in the room with the governor and joins us live outside of the Department of Health. Mitch?
Good afternoon, Tran. This was a wide-ranging question and answer segment, but Governor Ducey began it with some of what he would consider very positive COVID-19 information. He said the point of his is clear, that right now everything's going well so far. Just keep on doing what you're doing, Arizona, because the statistics are going in the right direction. But he talked about a lot more things than just COVID-19.
Beginning with unemployment, the governor did not say how or when Arizona might be able to work with President Trump's executive action that provides more unemployment money for jobless folks, but requires states to kick in a quarter of that additional money. But he did say to expect an announcement on Friday. On the lawsuit the state is facing from the landlords who want to be able to evict people who don't pay rent, Ducey said, "Get in line." That's a direct quote. The state is being sued by multiple businesses over many issues relating to the pandemic. He also said there is $90 million in housing payment assistance available, but he said the state hasn't seen the demand for that money. And when it comes to schools, he said the state provided guidelines to districts so that districts can make their own decisions about in-person learning. And he said those district decisions, whatever they may be, are supported by the state.
And when it comes to schools reopening for in-person instruction, Dr. Kara Chris said today that they are finding some evidence that kids do not transmit the virus as effectively, her words, as adults. And she said that is one reason why she believes it's okay for the kids to go back to school. Now, Tram, I know you're going to be verifying exactly what the federal government has found as far as whether or not kids can transmit this disease at the same rate as adults. That's it for us for now. I'm Mitch Carr outside of AZDHS headquarters reporting live in Phoenix and for 12 News.